This is a case which came to us about 2 years back. A 16-year-old female came to us with history of primary amenorrhea, hirsutism, and collateral enlargement. Now this girl was investigated thoroughly, and ultimately we did the hormone workup for this girl. She had high testosterone levels of 435 as opposed to 10 to 75. The DHEAS levels were slightly, or they were in the normal range, with slightly high HGTH levels. Sodium potassium were normal, so she did not have hyponatremia, neither she did not have hyperkalemia. She was subjected to a HGTH stimulation test, which showed a basal 17-OHP level of 2,500 nanograms per DL, and after stimulation, these levels went up to about 7,800 nanograms per DL. So what was this condition? This girl was a congenital adrenal hyperplasia of the non-classical type. When you plot her on the nonogram, this girl had a baseline, these are the baseline values, and these are the stimulated 17-OHP values. This girl had a baseline stimulated value of 2,500, so which were somewhere here, and the stimulated values were 7,800. So as per nanogram, she was a non-classical CH. If she were a classical CH, the value would have been pretty high, and also she would have had clinical signs and symptoms much earlier. So this is how stimulated values would help us to diagnose non-classical CH in clinical practice. What are the problems which we face with the 17-OHP levels in newborn cases? Newborns generally have a higher values of 17-OHP. They could be as high as 100 nanomoles per liter, and this is because of stress which the newborn faces immediately after birth. And there could be also interference in these values by the steroids, which can cross the placenta, and if the mother was on steroid-like drugs, they have a role to play in interpretation of the newborn's values. Preterm gives us a different set of problems. The values of preterms have been significantly higher, even higher than the newborns. And this could be because of immature arterial functions, could be because of poorer kidney functions, high HGTH levels because of stress, and the hormones which the child receives, or steroids which the child receives during treatment for lung maturity, it could also have a role to play in preterm values. Generally, preterm values are higher than the term values, and they could be as high as 400 nanomoles per liter in children below 35 weeks, or as high as 150 just before term. A lot of papers and countries have published their own cutoffs. The Swedish study has published the cutoffs for preterms less than 35 weeks as 150, below 33 weeks as 600 nanomoles, and for term babies as 75 nanomoles per liter. We accept values of about 100 for our babies who are term, and around 150 for preterm babies. Is there a role of 17 ketosteroids in diagnosing and managing 17-OHP? This has been used as an aid in diagnosing children with atopic genitalia. 17-OHP can sometimes be used as a screening test, or it can be used for patients who are on follow-up on treatment with steroids. We find it very, very difficult to collect 24-hour sample in babies, especially with the atopic genitalia. And when we send it to a lab, they have their own set of problems in interpreting these values. And 17-OHP generally we do not do in our lab practice in diagnosing and treating patients of diagnosing and treating patients of CH. Is there a role of screening in CH? Yes, there is a definite role of CH in screening in CH, because it diagnoses the condition early. We can prevent a lot of perinatal mortality and death if we diagnose the conditions early and start treatment early. Data suggests that the incidence of CH is about 13,000 to 14,000 in the population. India, we do not have a lot of studies. A study which was done by Dr. Ramadevi showed incidence of as high as 1 in 2,500. And this was probably because of a very small sample size which she examined and clinically diagnosed patients. So these levels are slightly higher. In Sweden, the cutoffs were, the incidence was as high as 9,000 in the screening test. And in New Zealand, they had the incidence of 1 in 26,000 on newborn screenings. There are no established criteria of CH diagnosis in India as of now. I know you had a great session yesterday on thyroid, but I'm going to have few slides on thyroid in basically in newborn period and how thyroid diagnosis and interpretation would help us in diagnosing the conditions. This is a case of congenital hypothyroidism with classical features. As we know, thyroid is the most common preventable cause of mental retardation, and hence all children must be screened at birth to pick up one case of thyroid which will prevent a mental retardation or mental retarded child in the general population. We do thyroid estimations by doing a TSH and T4 levels. Immediately after birth, the TSH levels start rising. They rise to a very high level on the first day, start coming down by day 3, come to normal levels by day 5, and actually achieve their levels by day 6 or day 7. Whereas free T4 levels start to rise on day 1, come to a higher level on the first day, stay higher for 5 days, around 5 days, and start coming down to the normal levels by 2 to 3 weeks. So depending upon what time of the life you're taken the thyroid estimation, the values are going to change. For example, if you take the thyroid levels at birth, what you're going to get? We are going to get a marginally high TSH with a normal T4. If we analyze them on day 1 of life, we get high T4 and a high TSH. If we analyze them around day 5 of life, or day 3 of life, sorry, we are going to get marginally high TSH with a very high T4. And if we do at around say 2 weeks, we are going to get normal TSH and normal T4. So when should one do a thyroid function test? Ideally on the cord blood immediately after birth, or practically after day 5 to interpret the reports. We many times get patients referred to us on day 3 with a high TSH, suspected hypothyroidism, which we have to rule out again by doing the levels at day 5 of life, and then they turn out to be normal. So the cord blood TSH values are higher, up to 30 to 35 milliunits per ml are accepted. Our cutoffs are 25. As we already seen, the values are very, very high initially, so please avoid checking them between day 1 and day 3. Should be done at birth or after day 5 of life. We should have local norms established when we are doing cord blood TSH. In the first few months of life, TSH values are generally higher, so one can accept values as high as 10, provided the free T3 and T4 levels are normal. I'm going to end my talk with a couple of cases. This is a baby who was diagnosed or had a value of TSH of more than 150 Clinically, baby looked normal, was referred to us with high TSH values. We repeated the blood sample on day 5. We again showed a value of more than 150 with a lowish T4 and a T3 levels. So this is a classical case of congenital hypothyroidism, and this baby is going to require lifetime replacement with L-thyroxine. We had another case which was referred to us. This time the baby had a cord blood value of 65. The baby was normal. On day 5 of life, the tests were repeated by the referring doctor. They showed a value of TSH of 9. T3 and T4 were on higher side of normal. Free T4, when the baby came to us, we did a free T4, T3 and TSH. The free T4 was 1.5 on the higher side of normal. Free T3 also was normal, and the TSH level was 9.5. We already seen a cutoff of 10 is acceptable to us, so this TSH was normal. So how did we interpret? The patient had TSH which was in the normal range with a slightly high free T4 and T3. So this baby essentially was a normal child and did not require treatment.